What is going on, everybody? It is me again. It's HorrorFan34, and welcome to another video. And welcome to another review for the 31 Days of Horror Challenge in October. Now that we are on day 14 of the challenge, I think I'll talk about another film that I feel is very underrated. And I think it's a really unique idea for a horror film. And it's definitely one of the best, 90s horror films. Because I think this was released in 1997, I believe this was released. And I just think it's a really cool idea for a horror film. And I know there was two more movies after this, a sequel and then a prequel. But if you cannot tell by the title already of this video, you can tell what the review is going to be on, and it's going to be on Cube. Don't look for a reason. Look for a way out. Like I said, Cube was a film that was released in 1997, directed by Vincenzo Natali. Now, this is the same guy that went on to direct Splice with Adrian Brody. And I think this is his best film by far, Cube. I think Cube is a really cool horror flick from the 90s, and it's a very unique concept as well for a horror film, because basically what the idea is that you have these six strangers that wake up in this really weird, cube maze looking thing. They have no idea how they got there or what the purpose of this thing is, but they got to find a way out of this cube maze. And if they go through, they have to, solve, these puzzles and things like that. And if they go through the wrong door, they get killed in these traps and things like that. So that's pretty much what the entire film is about. The Cube is just these people being trapped inside of this cubic maze thing. And if they go through the wrong door or something like that, they get killed in these traps. I think it's a pretty cool and unique idea. Now, the first off thing is, some of the cast members do a really good job. You have Nicole DeBoer, who I believe went on to be as Dax in Star Trek Deep Star 9 or something like that. I know she was in one of the Star Trek TV shows. David Hewlett, that's a guy that's worked with the director before. I think he went on to be in Splice as well. But the cast does a really good job here. You have one guy who's like a cop. You have another one who is like a mathematician, kind of like girl. Things like that. And I think Cube works really, really well. It's a really interesting idea. One knock I do have against the movie, though, is the ending. I didn't really care for the way the movie ended. I'm not going to say how it ends, but I'm not really a fan of how it ended, because it just leaves, I'm not going to say what it is, but, other than the ending to this movie, I still really do enjoy the rest of the film. I think it's a cool idea, and I tell you what, some of the best scenes in the movie, you literally have one scene where, this person is going through this, soundproof room where you have to be, really quiet, or else, you can't make a whole lot of noise and things like that. If you make your noise louder and louder, these spikes come down and come and get you and squish you. I mean, there's literally a point where one of the people go through the wrong doors and they get sliced by this trap, things like that. In a way, it's kind of like a more, I guess, R-rated version of, or a more extreme version of, Fortress with Christopher Lambert. In a way, this film really does kind of remind me of Fortress a little bit, because you figure it's about, you're trapped in this, condensed space, with, in Fortress, or in a film like Cube. And what I also find really interesting about this, it's kind of when you put this in, in a different perspective, it's kind of funny how this cubic maze looking thing, the way that the cube looks, it kind of reminds me of if these people are stuck inside of the puzzle box from Hellraiser. I always kind of thought that was a theory. It's what if Pinhead's behind this whole thing? Pinhead is playing a new game. Was he the pre-Jigsaw from Saw? It's kind of like it kind of makes me wonder if this is what really the puzzle box is like when you're stuck inside of the puzzle box. If you're like a miniature version of yourself and being stuck inside this cubic maze, it kind of makes you wonder: is this the puzzle box from hell, pretty much? But it's R-rated, it's gory. You get some really good kills with the traps. Very creative traps that these people have to avoid. I like the cast as well, like Nicole DeBoer, David Hewlett, Andrew Miller, Julian Richards. I think the director did a really good job directing the movie, and I just think it's such a unique concept for a horror film, pretty much. I mean, imagine yourself, being, and I know like people didn't really like the fact that like they don't really know like how they got there, what the purpose of them being in the cubic maze thing is. In a way, though, I'm thankful they didn't really go that route, because like I don't think you really need to explain why they're in here or what the purpose of it is. I just feel like it's much more better, kind of like to leave it up to yourself to think about, because I like when movies do that when they don't really explain a whole lot. It kind of like makes you like create your own theory in a way, where the horror film itself kind of makes you think a little bit, like, well, what do you think? Maybe it was the purpose for this, or maybe they were put here because of this, or something like that. So I kind of like the fact that sometimes like the movie kind of makes you ask yourself these questions yourself and kind of come up with your own idea. But it doesn't work all the time, but it does work in certain cases like this movie. But if you really want to see like a really solid horror flick from the 90s, you want to see a really good, like, kind of like another version of Fortress or things like that, and you're in a way kind of like a pre-Saw kind of like movie with traps and all that stuff, but not to like, I mean, it is R-rated and gory, but not to like the extent of the Saw films with the traps and all that stuff. This is kind of like a pre-version of Saw in a way, and I think this is better than most of the Saw sequels. I'll say that for sure. Because I was never really too big on the Saw sequels. I like the first Saw, but then I don't really think you needed that to be a franchise, to be honest. That's just me, though. But, yeah, but if you like 90s horror films and if you want to see a really unique idea, then I would definitely recommend you watch Cube. Avoid the sequels, though. I think there was Cube 2 Hypercube, which was a piece of crap, and Cube Zero, which was a prequel, which is not that great either. So I would avoid those two films. But anyways, thank you very much for watching my review for Cube, and I will see you guys next time.